All right, everybody, it is, as I get off the red eye.
I only see 3 people here.
Oh, no, we see on the participant list on the side, Mr. Kent's
Oh, here we
here,
go.
Dominic is
Oh,
here,
here we
yeah,
go.
we have our full
Okay,
quorum,
okay.
so got it there.
So you note that on the calculator.
Oh, that's, yeah. Yep, we'll call it. So today is Wednesday, April 6th. It is 4:03 p.m. I call to order the meeting of the Hudson City Industrial Development Agency.
Beer store in Monticello. And he worked very hard, and it took him several years to get that facility up and running like he wanted it to. But Sonny found that there was some good money to be made in beer stores if it was run properly. While at the same time, him and a couple of his relatives developed a Hampton Inn in Kingston, which everybody is aware of. And
There we go.
Thank you.
Apologies for that. Linda, we were expecting you were all together. So, all right, so we have Mike Tucker is here. Dominic, you're here?
here,
Excellent. Teresa, I see you. Good
Here.
afternoon.
Hello.
Here. Chris, myself.
excessive management fees were not coming to the bottom line. And eventually, he brought his concerns to the partnership, and they decided that they would go their own.
Excellent. Welcome to the tech on capabilities that we've got today. So we have our corpsman. I think Richard, you're also on the line, correct?
Yes, I'm here, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor? Nope, I don't believe I see him on there today, and I don't believe I see that list either. Do you? Yep. No? Okay. All right, first order of action today, I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the March 17th meeting.
I motion to accept the minutes from March 17th meeting.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No opposition. Excellent. I'm actually going to jump down on our agenda today here. Mr. Kent, I know that you're here. Thank you for joining us today. I believe that we're going to have to provision you the share access, which Mrs. Drahusha can do from where she's sitting remotely. And just to give a few more minutes for Mr. Tucker to join us here quickly, I'm going to go into the governance committee report. So most of you know that last week we kicked off the first in a series of 3 public input sessions around the criteria which the IDA uses to evaluate the consideration and approvals for applications that come before it. We were presented with, and a massive thank you to Ted DiBarbieri, the attorney that we've contracted and are working with. He presented us with a few different models in the way that cities of our size and in our region look to evaluate these projects. And in particular, the way that the City of Albany IDA looks at considerations for projects, as well as Clinton County, seems to be a really nice blend, giving the sort of upcoming urban side and yet the old rural side of kind of the confluence that meets Hudson. One of the key takeaways that we have is that, and Teresa, I'd love to put this on your radar sooner rather than later, and I'll also be reaching out to Lisa Keneally, is that a lot of what came out of that conversation, we know that the intersect of planning and zoning comes into this so much. So we formally would like to invite you, as well as members of both the planning and the zoning board, to come to the second one for input. And that specifically involves how we're looking at more of a qualitative inputs, not just in the evaluation structure and framework that we're putting together overall, but also into what we're considering as a rider for CDAs, community benefits agreements. There's a lot to be said that while a CDA isn't anything that impacts the traditional way an IDA reviews projects, they are ancillary channels with which applicants can build a lot of goodwill within the community to have not just support, but true outside of IDA economic benefit and impact for residents. So that is going to really be the drill down focus too. And I know Supervisor Cousins is here too, if you're able to come to that. I know you wear a couple of different hats within the community. I'd love it if you were there. And I don't know if she's on, but I would like to thank Rebecca Wolf, who also came and attended that with us and had a lot of great input. So any questions on the findings or that for me right now from a governance perspective?
I just wanted to let you know I'm a little late, Cheryl the assessor.
Oh, hey, Cheryl, you are here. That's okay. Good. Thank you for joining. I'm trying, which number is she identified under? Cheryl, what's the last four numbers of the phone number you're calling in from?
Oh, 8345.
Okay, there you are. Third one down. Thank you. It just comes through the number and not the name. So it's the joy of Zoom, but thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we're going to hold on the administrative director's report and the project updates until Mr. Tucker is able to rejoin us. I think we all know he had a phone call he needed to step out to. So Mr. Kent, apologies to put you on the spot so quickly here, but you have the floor if you'd like to walk us through the presentation.
No problem at all. Thank you for having us today. I'm joined by Dan Hubble, our project attorney from Whiteman, Osterman, Hanna, and also Dan Iacovella, who is our finance consultant. Yes, we are a team of 3 Dans. It's a funny coincidence, but I'll start by just launching into the presentation. So just give me a moment to share my screen and start the show here. Does everyone see the cover page?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are here today to present Hudson Public, which is the name of a 30-room hotel with ground floor commercial space for a bar and restaurant located at the corner of Warren Street and North 4th Street. The project is a historic rehabilitation initiative that is taking 2 derelict buildings and rehabilitating them into a hotel, which is one of the historic uses of the main building. The project directly creates approximately 8 full-time and 2 part-time jobs as part of the hotel operations, as well as approximately 46 construction jobs. These numbers just reflect the hotel operations and not the operations of the bar and restaurant space, which would be created on that ground floor commercial space along Warren Street. The project also includes, in addition to the rehabilitation of those 2 historic buildings, it includes infill development between them in order to connect the buildings and also extend and support the continuity of the Warren streetscape. So for our purposes, we're a nonprofit organization, Hudson. Our focus has long included both historic preservation and rehabilitation, but also supporting entrepreneurship and small business growth and economic development in the city of Hudson. So those are all the reasons why we're very excited about the Hudson Public project. So here are the existing buildings. This is on your left, you see a view from Warren Street. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with this building, which has been in this shape for longer than I've been involved in the city of Hudson, for a very long time. As you see on the right-hand side of my screen, that is the other building that we'll be restoring, as well as a kind of cavernous structure thing. We're not quite sure what that was used for between the 2 buildings, but that is the location where we would be putting in place some infill development. So I will now show you the proposed building plans. I know, Teresa, you're already familiar with these, so but for everyone else, here is the view from Warren Street. You can see the rehabilitated building on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, that is an infill structure that would be filling in what is currently vacant land between the existing building and our neighboring building. Here is the view from North 4th Street, again, all the way to the right-hand side of your page. That is the existing corner building that would be rehabilitated. To the immediate left of that is a replacement structure that would not only connect the two existing buildings, but would also allow for space for an elevator to achieve ADA accessibility. And then to the left of that is, again, that other existing building that is currently on site that would be rehabilitated essentially to look exactly the way it had from the beginning. So next, I know the governance committee is looking at a new criteria for evaluating projects. We wanted to present how we believe our project advances the current published project evaluation criteria for the Hudson IDA. So the first item listed there is to create or retain jobs. This project, as I noted before, directly creates 8 full-time and 2 part-time jobs with salaries ranging from $32,000 to $70,000. In addition to creating and retaining jobs, a big part of the criteria is, what are we doing in order to fill those jobs with local people? So we will use hiring policies to maximize employment of community residents. We'll include plans for on-the-job training and education support for employees. We welcome any and every opportunity to collaborate with existing education and training efforts in the city of Hudson. We will also be seeking out bids from local contractors and construction workers, and we will do everything we can to provide information to the community about hiring and job opportunities in this project. The next criteria is to invest private capital. Our plan includes investment of approximately $1.6 million of our own equity. We will also plan to secure approximately $5 million of private financing. Of that total $6.675 million budget for the project, that will include over $4.4 million in investment in permanent structures, fixtures, and equipment. Again, we will prioritize local sourcing of construction materials and equipment. We will prioritize use of local vendors for our operations supply chain purchasing. And we anticipate, and we'll go into some of the numbers later, that this project will increase the value of Hudson's commercial tax base. The next criteria is to generate a positive fiscal impact. This project is projected to generate approximately $750,000 in additional lodging tax revenue over the course of the pilot term. It will also result in an approximately $75,000 increase in property tax revenues during the pilot term when you compare what is currently being paid for the taxes for this site versus the pilot payments that the project would make in accordance with our proposed schedule. The project is projected to spend over $1.1 million annually through payroll and other local spending, which will of course result in additional sales tax revenue and other tax revenue for the city. I would also like to reference here some data that was produced a couple of years ago by the Hudson Development Corporation, which indicated that every hotel room in the city of Hudson is projected to generate $32,000 of annual visitor spending at local businesses. So when you multiply that by 30 rooms, you're looking at another additional $1 million of spending, which is generating tax revenue and salaries and profits for local entrepreneurs. And then finally, we do not project that this project would result in any significant increase in demand for public resources, such as increases in school enrollment or human services spending. So all of this, additional tax revenue that this project will generate will not be offset by any, proportional increases in spending that might result from the project. The next criteria is to strengthen existing industries. Of course, the tourism industry is hugely important in the city of Hudson, as is the retail industry on Warren Street. This project supports that by bringing all these additional tourists and guests into the city of Hudson. It also replaces a blighted building, which is at the center of really one of the main draws for the tourism industry in the city of Hudson, which is the charming, historic, beautiful Warren Street commercial district. And then it also does so by basically taking a building that long ago was a hotel and bringing it back to one of its original uses. Again, this revitalizes a distressed area. You can look to the existing condition photos that I shared earlier and compare them with the renderings. As a result, we expect this will strengthen the retail industry in the city of Hudson. It will increase the amount of local hospitality services. And then finally, one of the other pieces of this criteria is it will improve sidewalks and the streetscape, improvements that we'll be making to the site. So here is our pilot request. I want to first note that we base this exactly off of the terms that the City of Hudson IDA agreed to for the 620 Union Hotel project, which we view as being, very similar to our project. It's a larger hotel, but overall it's really the same kind of business. So we wanted to come to the IDA with exactly the same kind of request. So for this project, that would mean a sales tax abatement exemption of approximately $163,000. That's the projected amount of sales tax that would be paid as a result of the construction spending. It includes a mortgage recording tax exemption of $63,500. That's the mortgage in connection with the $5 million in private loan capital that we would be pursuing for the project. And then finally, it would include a property tax exemption of approximately $177,000, which is calculated using the below schedule, which again follows the same percentage steps and schedule as was agreed to for the 620 Union Hotel project. And our assessment estimate here, this is still an estimate at this point, but that was also based on the assessment that was given to 620 Union, but adjusted based on the different size of our project. So before I open for questions, our thoughts on some next steps, of course, we want to hear initial feedback and input and, whatever questions you have on what we are planning. We would also welcome the IDA to set up escrow for legal and consulting costs. And then, similar to the way the IDA approached the 620 Union project, we would welcome the IDA ordering third-party appraisal and economic impact analysis in order to bring some of our projected numbers in our application into reality through a third-party analyst. So that concludes the presentation. I will stop sharing and welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. Open it up to perfectly automatically reset. I'll open it up to the IDA board members.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I want to go back to the jobs. I noticed that, I saw that in the presentation, but is there anywhere in the presentation that I may have missed that said, what are the jobs, full-time jobs?
Yes, so in our application, we break it down into the categories that are used in the IDA application format.
Okay.
I can summarize it quickly. I mean, we've got a motel manager.
I just have to keep looking, for
Yeah.
it. And
Yes.
it also gives the salary pertaining to this particular category.
That's right. Yeah, so the categories are in the application, but I can just give a quick kind of summary. I mean, we've got a motel manager position, which we're projecting around $70,000 a year salary plus benefits.
That's
There's an assistant manager position, maintenance, housekeeping, front desk. And the total range, let me see if I can pull through, is the range is 31,200 up to 70,000 for all those positions.
And you're going to try and hire locally. Have you a hotel manager? So that comes with some type of training in hospitality, am I right?
Yeah, hospitality training or general management experience. But yeah, ideally we'd be looking for
So
something.
can I say that you'll be hiring, in other words, the jobs won't be where they have to come with that qualification. You're willing to take people from the area and train them. Is that what I'm hearing here with your training?
Yeah, I mean, with each position, there are different experience requirements. You know, with certain positions, yeah, we could train people who are going into hospitality for the first time. With a motel or a hotel manager position, you know, that's a role where we would want to see someone with more experience.
Yeah, but you know, for like a local, if you're going to do locally, you may not have that. When you put that on the qualifications, that may just eliminate a lot of people in the area. And then you have people coming from out of the area into the area just for that particular $70,000 a year job. So I really would like to know and see that there will be things put in place to train people for these jobs that they can get. You know what I'm saying? So that we can keep the employment local, where people in this area can have good jobs, you know, not just the Walmarts and the ShopRite, but, you know, can have a $70,000 a year job and have been trained to do so.
Absolutely, and that's our goal for the project. And you know, we'll want to explore more with the IDA, some of the strategies you've used with other hotel applicants in the past in order to build out some of those relationships. I know the IDA did a lot of hard thinking about that in connection with the 620 Union project. So, you know, that's our goal. So, you know, we welcome your guidance and thoughts on how we can build those relationships and continue to support that training internally.
Thank you.
Just building on that, Mr. Kent, do you have any example of the hiring policies that you've done for some of the projects that you can share?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly.
Do you have any examples of the hiring policies that you mentioned, as well as like anything written that for previous projects? I'd just be curious to review the language that's in them.
No, we haven't produced those policies yet. We wanted to coordinate with the IDA on some of the policies that previous applicants have entered into and use that as a starting point.
Okay. Any other questions? Sir, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. And we will take your presentation and email it to each of the members of the IDA and post it on the website in case there are questions or people are looking for more detail. Could you give us a brief update on your planning board status, unless you have already?
Yes, so we have submitted, and the planning board has elected to serve as lead agency for seeker purposes, and notice has been sent out to that effect. Currently, the planning board is in the process of hiring a traffic and parking engineer who will be tasked with evaluating our parking study from Creighton Manning, and I think also doing general engineering review of the project. So where we left off in the last meeting is that they were going to start the process of hiring that consultant.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, as you know, the IDA relies on the planning board determination for seeker for its actions. So while we have in the past continued to work on projects at the same time in parallel tracks, the agency doesn't take action until the planning board has completed its work and its review and its approval process.
Or the NAGDAC process.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent.
Did I miss anything, Teresa?
Nope.
Okay, good.
See you.
Overstate, Hey, right?
So thank you to the power of Dan ×3 for joining this call, helping us out.
One quick thing. So there are two things that the applicant did bring up, and that was whether is the board want to wait on procuring, economic benefit analysis as well as retaining counsel to be part of this, or is that something that the board would be willing to do?
For this meeting at least, we only had it scheduled to have the presentation, and we'll likely make decisions and discussion at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's possible. I mean, we certainly have the ability to commission the economic initial reports. That doesn't take board action, but there's no other action that we're going to take.
Excellent. Sir, over to you, Administrative Director's report.
Thank you. We did meet with John Dunn, representing Plus Development, the prospective purchaser of the Elks Club, in connection with our anticipation of receiving an application for a 29-room hotel at 601, 602 Union. Again, I know that a closing was in the process of being scheduled. I don't know if it actually occurred. And we also are aware through CEDC receiving the repayment of a $200,000 loan that we made to the Hudson Development Corporation. And I'm sure you're all aware as well of the sale of the CAS site. We continue to have several entities calling us and expressing some level of interest and indicating they've had some level of contact with the owners of 1 Hudson Avenue, which is owned by a company in Texas, which is owned by a conglomerate in Japan. I don't know how you get their attention, either in Texas or Japan, about a 16-acre parcel in Hudson, New York, but it is one of the last few large parcels that's left. So there are people who are interested in it. Just as an aside, the February county sales tax numbers were up 22% again, and they were over 2021, and over 30% from 2020, and we're looking at the 19 numbers now. So there's a lot of activity going on. I think we're also continuing to look at housing both in the city and at the county level. And don't know if the chairman has reported yet on our meeting.
Went through everything already.
Yeah.
On the meeting last
That was very useful. And I think the second and third meetings will be even more valuable. Finally, I was invited yesterday to participate in a meeting with the executive directors of the Westchester, Orange, Sullivan, Dutchess, Ulster, Rockland, and Putnam IDAs, as well as the Greene County IDA in Poughkeepsie. And we had a 2.5-hour meeting discussing best practices, discussing different experiences that we've had, and will benefit. I think we will all benefit from some of that information, particularly in the process we're going through with respect to criteria and project evaluation and pilot.
Was it recorded?
No, it was
private.
It was, yeah, it was in their offices of Think Dutchess. I'm also going to participate next week in the New York State Economic Development Council's annual IDA day-long training session. And we'll bring back information to the members to the extent that there's relevant information, and that will be recorded, and I can alert you to key recordings that might not require you to have to sit through the 9 hours or whatever it is, but there might be some highlights that we could present to you to listen on your own.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Project updates. Anything else?
No, other than the projects I've mentioned, the pocketbook factory, I believe is starting to mobilized. I believe we could have asked Mr. Kent where they are with the state on the,
He's still here.
Yeah,
Are
Mr.
you
Kent,
still-
if you're still
are
here.
you still here, Dan?
Yeah, I'm still here. Thought you might ask. So stick around.
You have any new information on where the state is with respect to the Depot District projects?
Yeah, so the deadline for the tax credit financing application was on March 31st. So pleased to report we got everything in. I think we put together a very strong application, which was really made possible by the support from the City of Hudson IDA. At this point, you know, I've spoken with folks from HCR. It's going to be a very competitive round. We should know more about how we did in the next 2 to 3 months, I would guess. But until then, you know, we're moving ahead with architecture and design, and also for the 708 side of the street, and for a slight adjustment on 75 North 7th, we are going back to the planning board to obtain an amendment because we needed to make some small modifications to elements of the site plan, but we don't expect there will be any issues there.
Great. Well, I read where the governor, there's possible $200 million of additional housing money in the state budget. So you know,
Amen.
unless they use it for the stadium in Buffalo, let's keep our fingers crossed.
We could build a whole lot of housing with that $1 billion to the Buffalo Bills.
How, do you have off the top of your head how many pilots for hotels we've approved so far this year?
Just two.
Just two, okay.
And I think that, you know, we've had some discussion about what process the IDA should go through, and I think that'll come out of the process that the 3 work sessions that the chairman has. It's, you know, when you look at it, it really is a how much can you differentiate that each of the hotels that are being built are for a particular segment of the market as opposed to a 150-unit Hampton Inn. So I do think that you know, it'll be an interesting study, but I think there probably will be some necessity to do some kind of this study.
Any final comments from the board? All right, I'll open it up for public comment.
I did have another question for Dan, just piggybacking off of Teresa's question for hiring. Is there some type of update that you can give or some type of timeline for how you plan on thinking about the training for local staff? And is that something that you're willing to prioritize as far as like training up manager positions? A $70,000 salaried position for somebody who's never had that experience is really big. And it's something that I think a lot of the community would support if there was opportunity for someone to learn the new skills and not necessarily look for somebody that has years of experience. Like, I think that training somebody brand new to have and hold that position is really going to be important.
Yeah,
One
that's
thing about-
certainly.
Go ahead,
I'm
Dan.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's certainly something we can look to further detail. I know it's always an organizational priority for us to promote internal training and advancement and promotion. It's a part of our work. It's a part of, you know, keeping talent and retaining talent is making those types of opportunities available. So it's absolutely a priority, and I'll be interested to have some further conversations with the IDA board about what types of terms and agreements and structures have been set up in connection with past hospitality projects.
I think that's just to reiterate, taking it back to why we're holding those public input sessions, like that's really the construct, so that becomes a standard question and lens of evaluation for everything rather than a one-off basis. So again, I encourage any members of the public who care about issues like that to please join us for these sessions so that your voices and input can be taken into that framework.
The other aspect.
Sorry.
I just have one question though. Now, with the hotels, because I know a lot of hotels around here, the prices to even get a hotel is outrageous. I mean, some hotels you're charging $600 a night, which
Who's talking?
locals really can't pay that, you know. Now, with this being built, how are the prices? Are they negotiable? Are they, you know, in price range where people can actually afford it? 'Cause
I
even at
apologize.
$600 a night,
Well, who's
I know
talking?
it's 70.
Who's
Hi,
talking?
my name is Angelique Inamorado.
Okay, thank you, because I wasn't sure who that was. Thank you.
So I was just wondering, you know, how are the prices for the hotel? And because I know a lot of course, out of towners would be coming here, but locals too should be able to enjoy a night away as well.
So I can say it certainly won't be $600 a night. It will.
You don't know that.
Actually is about $600 to $1,000 a night.
Wow.
So, yes.
One of the aspects of the training is the critical mass aspect. And the fact that we have 2 properties now who have committed as part of, in writing, as part of their approval process to do training. The issue we've seen is that to the extent that you open a new hotel, you do the training. And then when someone leaves, the people who are there working train the next person. You don't bring back the program, if you will. We think that, you know, there are enough hospitality businesses in Hudson and throughout the county that
Yes.
working together as opposed to just working
In
one-offs could sustain a hospitality training program at various levels, from line chef, line cooks to kitchen help to all the services that go with it. And we had some discussions through CEDC, and I believe now with Hudson Development Corporation's available funding and their interest in doing, being involved in workforce, together with the community college and the Workforce Investment Board, which is a Columbia Green effort, that with the hospitality businesses in Columbia and Greene counties through the college and Questar and all of our own desire to get this done, could be a program that could sustain itself as opposed to doing them as one-offs.
As long as there's, right, an emphasis on the managerial, because a lot of times they require the degrees. So in a lot of workforce programming, you're not gonna find the managerial training. They have lots for housekeeping and the chefs and maintenance, but they don't usually cover the managerial. But most of the hotels around here have good positions open, and those are the ones that we want to make sure our people have access to.
There's, you familiar with Enterprise Rent-A-Car,
Mhm.
right? So that's kind of like what their model is, right? They just say, okay, listen, we will teach you from the ground up, and it is like a managerial track that you can get on. So I'm with you in that, like, for the evaluation criteria, how do we look to see that those programs are a part of it, right?
Yes.
So it's about like whatever entity you bring in to actually do the either front or back of house management, particularly within hospitality, making sure that there is something baked in. I mean, I think that, you know, with the WIC, because of its affiliation with Marriott, right? Like that becomes part of the programming or the resource access that local staff can tap into.
Right, and private hotels don't have that same standard,
Correct.
so it's something that we want to make sure is like carved out, spelled out, and
Yep.
that for our community, if you want pilot pass and you want support from the community, that has to be a priority that's spelled out, as well as the prices of the rooms, like Angelique had asked.
Well, and without sending someone to Cornell's School of Hotel Management, there could be hotel management courses that either are online or where they could go for an intensive
Certifications.
Yeah,
immersion.
and I think that that's something to consider, having a pool set aside for the city or the county to support folks that are interested
But
in.
you know
taking
what's
that.
interesting about that and the Cornell thing, it'd be interesting to talk to cooperative extension and say, okay, look outside of just your environmental elements.
Yeah.
What can you bring in?
And there was a small Cornell programming that had an office, a 2-person office in Kinderhook, that was focusing in on the farm to table connections. And, you know, if there is, there've been several over the years and more recently, again, some people looking at a Hampton Inn for Greenport. And obviously with our water, sewer, gas, and electric and broadband initiatives, there are only 6 sewer districts in the county, and you have one of them in the city. So the other 5 is where there's going to be any type of mixed use or projects or multifamily housing or hotel, larger hotels. So I think, it's important to be sure that the IDA is focused on the properties in Hudson and the residents of Hudson. But a combined training program could be a useful exercise, because you can't create a program every time you have a 20-room hotel or a 30-room hotel. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can Dan just touch on Angela's question quickly about the price of the?
Dan, can you go back to the hotel price structure?
Yeah, so that's something I'm going to take a look at with my team and figuring out, whether there could be special blocks or room rates during particular times of year for, special rates for people who are, locals who are having family visit or something like that. So I'll take a look at that and see, if there's a way that we can make this more accessible from that perspective.
And I could send you some information, Dan. I know several of the hotels in Saratoga do that off season.
Outside of race season.
Outside of race season.
Yeah. So,
Great.
Michelle,
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yes. Hey, Ryan, and board. I was curious. I heard that I wasn't able to attend the workshop last week, but I heard there's some really great conversation. I was wondering what the final product is that you're working towards, whether it's like a scoring rubric, a checklist, a way of reforming the applications. If you can talk a little bit about that, and then what's going to happen at the next workshop?
Yeah, no. So I don't know if you were here for the first part of the call, but just to reiterate what I was saying there, it's not a quantitative process. It's much more qualitative guidelines to be able to look for. I think the 2 that we really focused in on were the Albany version, which is much more checklist, right? And very broad in terms of what it considers. But then getting into the actual numbers, like we're having the discussion here today, especially around hyper-local job creation, the Clinton County model, which is in the materials that are available online as well. If you were to sort of merge the 2 of those and then better tailor and fit for the uniqueness that Hudson has, it is meant to be an overall evaluation guideline framework. So I shared those words specifically because we are not looking to institute a system where 80 is a passing number to get over and that anything 79 and below is going to be failure. And in addition to that, we had a lot, and I'm sure you got word, a lot of what we discussed were community benefits agreements and sort of like where from a qualitative perspective of the overall application, they can really help to better provide a lens of exactly what value, not only to the project, but to the community, the applicant or the organization can bring. And because we sort of lack that across areas of zoning, planning, and the IDA, I personally would like to see the IDA come up with an initial framework that can either be deployed by or adopted and sort of leveraged by those other governing bodies, so that holistically all 3 areas, which look at it very differently, understand at a broader sense where they can be working or advising applicants that have to go through all 3 different systems checklists of what they can be doing to bring additional positive benefit to the citizens of the municipality, in this case for us, Hudson, of where they're making the application to. So at this next meeting, Michelle, Mr. DiGarbieri is sort of boiling down a lot of what we had in terms of the initial feedback to provide an initial construct. And we're specifically inviting members of planning and zoning, as well as the other community organizations that all of which were invited, but limited showed for at the first meeting, to be involved in that process, since it really needs to be intersectional in terms of how we work together. So it'll be looking at the evaluation elements for our own scoring system or evaluation system. And then what that CDA rider is, just sort of what I'm terming it right now, looks like. So I hope you can join us for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I think one of the concerns is we don't want to have a community benefit model that only applies to IDA projects, where other projects that aren't looking for IDA financing
Exactly.
would be escaped from. And it may be that there may be certain community benefit discussions and commitments that go through planning or zoning. And they come to the IDA with those plans already in place.
And again, it just comes back to, I think we all know it's a good idea. Nobody, and I mean that in the broadest sense, nobody has stepped forward to provide an example. So why shouldn't it be us?
We found a toolkit.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has a
Yeah.
great toolkit.
And so even to be able to provide that sort of framework and structure that we can all influence.
The good news is we're not the first group looking at this.
No, exactly, exactly. So. Teresa, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. All right, any other comments?
Has our technology improved?
Yeah, actually, how was this experience today? Because they got somebody in here to fix the sound bar, the microphones, and the camera. So is it better than it usually is?
Yeah. Oh, I do have what does
Better
hybrid?
than when we first started.
Yeah, right. One laptop in the corner of the room. Teresa, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Hybrid. I saw next to your meeting, it said hybrid. What does some say virtual, hybrid, Zoom?
Yeah, we're giving people the ability to attend either via Zoom. We were using City Hall chambers for the last one. I'm hoping that we can do it for the second, unless this room is available.
It's not at night, probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're hoping to then use either City Hall, and if not City Hall, we'll announce well in advance what the second meeting is going to be. But it's about just, if you're more comfortable being at home right now, do so, right? We want to encourage participation, so I don't want to limit it to just people that can only come in person if they're not physically ready to yet.
And we do have a potential issue going forward if the governor does not further extend
Past April 16th.
these, and the public can participate this way,
Correct.
but the members of the board
need to be in person.
here. Is there any?
There's no objection
Feedback on
since
that?
it's a workshop, correct?
Will there be any feedback before midnight on the 14th?
No, well, no, it'll be 11:58 and 39 seconds. We'll know.
And the other issue that we're working hard to address is the requirement now that anything that the agency is going to discuss, absent a presentation like was made on a project today, has to be posted 24 hours in advance.
Correct.
And so I know, I guess the bottom line is you can't add new business to any of these meetings anymore, but.
All right. So with that, I invite a motion and a second to adjourn.
I put a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Adjourn.
Goodbye,
Thank
everyone.
you, Dominic. Thanks, everybody, for coming today.
Okay.
Thanks, Angelique.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Film at 11. Bye, Linda.
Bye-bye. Michael?